Thank you, Matthew, for this wonderful music. I can imagine Matthew as God blesses his talent and he becomes 18 and 22, that I might have to attend your concert at Carnegie Hall. Wouldn't it be nice to have a Seventh-day Adventist pianist like that? Anyway, so we're glad we're here. My wife is here, and isn't that wonderful to have the blessing of the Sabbath when you can rest? And hopefully, as Seventh-day Adventist Christians, we don't feel guilty that we're not working, like we're wasting our time, because we're simply obeying the Lord whom we love to rest with Jesus on this day. Can you imagine a whole day of resting from sundown to sundown? Like the Muslims of the world go to their house of worship, the mosque, just on Friday for 1 hour to pray, and then they go back to work. And many Christians, even on Sunday, they do work in the afternoon, morning, but I'm so glad on the Sabbath we don't have to work. And in doing that, we're obeying the Lord's commandment. On this holy day, you shall do no work. And so, I'm a conscientious person. I always want to be busy, accomplishing something. But on Sabbath, I don't feel guilty for just resting and spending time with Jesus. Okay, well, the title of the sermon today is what? What's the title? Some people tell you the title and then speak on something else. So what's the title today? To see with the heart. Meaning that you can only sometimes see with the eyes. Some people only see with the eyes. That's it. Some people only look at the outward appearance. That's it. But with Jesus, it's different. He looks at the heart. Meaning he understands your thoughts, your feelings, your challenges. He knows exactly what's in your heart. Imagine as you interact from people from day to day, they know your heart. Some people get confused, some people misunderstand you. And sometimes you say, how I wish people understand how I feel. It's a longing people have. Often this longing is not fulfilled. There's so much misunderstanding, misconception, and people feel they are not misunderstood. People feel they are always misunderstood. So let's look at that passage found in Matthew chapter 9. Pastor Kimberly read that passage. Let's look at it again and see the ideas the Holy Spirit has for us in that text. Verse 36 to 38 of Matthew chapter 9. But when he saw the multitudes. I've been to so many places where before me I saw thousands of people. In Africa when I was a missionary, the streets are really used on highways. People pack the highways. And when you drive your car, it's like driving in the midst of a multitude. And normally I look at the multitude as a big group of people. It's hard for me to just look at individuals. I look at the whole multitude. But Jesus, though facing the multitude, he could see individuals. Why? Because he saw with his heart. And because he saw with his heart, he felt compassion for them. He was moved with compassion. What does the word compassion mean? What does the word compassion mean? There are 3 words associated with the ministry of Jesus. 3 words. The first word, sympathy. The second word, empathy. And the third word is compassion. Let me define these three words for you to help us be like Jesus in how we relate to others. We all have a textbook called Christ's Method Alone. Maybe some people came later. Who doesn't have the book? Because I want to use it now and all afternoon. Raise your hand if you don't have the book. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the box is right here. I brought the box to protect it. So there you are. 6 of them. And I wanted to look at page 68. Because we want to be sympathetic, empathetic, compassionate like Jesus. So we need to know the meanings of these words and how to practice them. How to practice them. Mrs. Samaan, do you have your own textbook? My own wife doesn't have a Matthew, would you please give my wife a textbook? I mean, after all, her husband wrote the book and, he is the preacher today. Thank you. It's nice to have your own wife appreciate your book. Okay, so I think all of you got the book. Let's go to page 68. Right under that subheading, showing empathy and compassion. The word, let me go back to 67. I'm sorry, 67. This is where the word sympathy is found. You look at the second paragraph on page 67. And this word means sympathy, to feel with. To feel with somebody. If somebody is happy, you're happy with them. If somebody is sad, you're sad with them. If somebody is weeping, you weep with them. That's what sympathy is. It comes from the Greek word sympathia, which means to feel with. Now, on page 68, you have the word empathy. You know the meaning of that, which means to put yourself in the place of the other person. It's a bit more intense. Not just to feel with them, but to put yourself in their place. In other words, if somebody comes to you and says, I feel really sad because my husband passed away 2 months ago. Oh, get over it. You'll be okay. Keep your courage up. You'll just be fine. And you leave them. Empathy doesn't do it. Empathy says, if I lost a loved one, how would I feel? How would I feel if I lost a loved one? That's empathy. That helps us to have a winsome witness. To put ourselves in the place of the other person. And the most intense one is the word compassion, right on that page. Compassion comes from the Latin word compati. You don't have to know Latin, but to know the meaning of that word. Com means with. Passion means suffering. Literally, this compound word means to suffer with. That's very intense. Not only you feel with the person, not only you put yourself in the place of the person, but you suffer with that person. You enter into their suffering. Do we have an example of that in the life of Jesus? Yes. Remember, the leper came to him saying, please cleanse me from leprosy. But Jesus did not do this first of all. He didn't do that. I mean, he wanted to cleanse him from leprosy, but that's not the first thing he did for him. Because Jesus is primarily people-oriented. He cared about people. And after the people, he focused on the task at hand. What do I mean by that? He could have cleansed him immediately. If it were me, probably I would have started with making sure his skin looked like a baby's skin, because I've been to the mission field and I've seen many lepers and they don't look very pretty. I don't want to describe to you. How many in your life seen lepers? Anybody you've seen lepers? Sierra Leone, Africa. We have a mission station. And relatives and friends cast lepers out into the forest because they believe they're bringing a bad omen or some evil spirit. And the missionaries in their vans go and collect them to take them to the leprosarium. And you look at them, fingers missing, oozing out stuff, toes, nose, face. If it were me, I would probably say, before I touch a leper, I like to cleanse and make him really look good, because I like to touch things that, easy to touch. But Jesus refused to heal him first. He was moved with compassion and stretched forth his hand, and he touched him. Can you imagine Jesus willing to touch our leprosy? Jesus doesn't abandon us when we're in trouble. Why did he stretch forth his hand and touch his leprosy? He didn't have to, because he wanted the leper to know, I love you while you're still a leper. You don't have to impress me. You don't have to get yourself well. I love you unconditionally as you are. That's God's agape love, unconditional love. Doesn't the Bible say that? While we were yet sinners, Jesus died for us. While we were yet lepers, Jesus touched our leprosy. And I'm not implying anyone here is a leper or anything, but let me practice on you. Jesus stretched forth his hand and he touched you, meaning, I love you as you are. I'm going to change you, of course, but I want you to know, I love you as you are, unconditionally. He stretched forth his hand and he touched him. Why? Because Jesus sees with the heart. You cannot be compassionate for people unless you see the heart. If we don't see the heart, we dismiss them. You'll be okay. Get over it. Oh, no. We suffer with them. Well, let me go back to the word compassion. Today, I think for the probably past 25 years, the word passion became very popular. Some words become popular now and then they're out of fashion, and we pick other words. So the word passion, is very popular today. I'm so passionate about this. I am passionate about. Sometimes I think we use it too much. Passionate about everything. I don't think we know what the word means. What we mean by it is that we feel strongly about something. We like something intensely. But actually the word doesn't mean that. It means suffering. Like this young man, my student, he told me, I'm so passionate about my girlfriend. What do you mean by that? I like her very much. I said, do you know what the word really, really means? He said, it means you love somebody very much. I said, it doesn't mean that. It means to suffer. What do you mean to suffer? I said, well, whenever you fall in love with somebody, you suffer. Isn't that true? You invest your life in somebody, you suffer. All of us who are married, how many are married here? A whole bunch of you. Doesn't marriage take a little bit of suffering? Except, of course, Pastor Tony. He doesn't suffer at all. No, whenever you love somebody, you suffer. Jesus loved us and he suffered. Because you invest of your life in that person. If they're hurting, you hurt with them. If they get sick, you hurt with them. And Jesus did not just see with his eyes, he saw with his heart. To witness for Christ in a winsome way, we have to see with the heart. Man normally looks at the outer appearance, but Jesus looks at the heart. Ought to be like Jesus, to see with the heart. And one reason we know for sure. Passion has to do with suffering. All you have to think about is Mel Gibson's movie, a graphic movie, about the sufferings of Christ. I could only see part of it. Couldn't see the rest of it. To me, it was too gory. And what's the name of his movie? What's the name? The Passions of Christ. And if you watch the movie, what he really meant by that are sufferings of Christ. Nothing else. The only thing you see in the movie is suffering, intense suffering. So when Jesus saw the multitude, he was moved with compassion. Meaning, he suffered with the multitude. He entered their suffering. Have you ever had a friend, when you're going through a tragedy and they came to pray for you, you could tell they were really suffering with you. You could feel it. Have you had somebody like that? You could tell they're really sharing your suffering with you. It's not common, by the way. It happens once in a while. He was moved. I like the word moved. I don't mean from point A to point B. Pastor Kimley, because I'm used to having this message, so I always ask him questions. He always gives the right answers. This verb to move, he was moved. What does that word mean? It doesn't mean moving from A to B. What does it really mean?
His heart was touched.
His heart was touched. It tells you something about Jesus' heart. What kind of a heart did Jesus have? Aren't you thankful? Am I not thankful? Jesus has a big heart, a compassionate heart. God has a big heart. Can you imagine if God had a very hardened heart? Like Satan's heart? You see, Jesus doesn't only have a genius mind, he's very smart, by the way, but he has a big heart. His heart was moved. You know, when you listen to some moving piece of music that makes you cry, have you ever listened to some moving music that made you cry? Your heart was moved, your heart was touched, and now the heart of Jesus is touched. And what was the reason why his heart was touched? Because he saw this multitude stressed out, scattered, like sheep without a shepherd. Doesn't that describe our world today? So precisely. Things haven't changed very much. In fact, people are more stressed out today. Do you think people are stressed out? I don't know about Rossville. It's a little town in Georgia. People are so calm and peaceful. Is there stress in Rossville? There's stress everywhere, especially in the United States of America. We are the busiest, most stressed country in the world, unless you have a civil war somewhere. You know, if I go to Argentina, Brazil, if I go to other parts of the world, and I come back to John F. Kennedy's airport in New York, or Atlanta, or Miami, you could smell the stress in the air, literally. You can eat it. Things are really stressful. Be careful about stress, by the way. Especially if it's sustained stress. Medical research shows us it contributes to many illnesses. I don't mean stress once in a while, but sustained. Stress continuously. That's why you need to take these divine burdens to Jesus. Relieve you of these burdens. They're like sheep without a shepherd. Without a shepherd. Scattered. Stressed out and scattered. Thank God we have a shepherd today. His name is Jesus Christ. He is your shepherd and He is my shepherd. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. When I was working in John Conference, I attended a church nearby, and this man gave his testimony. He said, I worked as a medic in Washington, D.C. Big problems there. Once we were called upon to help a man who overdosed himself on heroin. I was the only one with him in the ambulance, and my friend was the driver, and I was working on him to keep him alive, to get him to the hospital. All of a sudden, he became extremely violent, and he's a tough man, muscular man, and he began to punch this Adventist medic in the face, over his head. He injured this man. He injured his head, his brain. And he went to many doctors and hospitals. For 2 years, he was getting worse and worse. Depression, suicidal feelings. And he was ready to give up. Just say, okay, I'll kill myself. Because his brain was damaged. He said, Lord, give me another chance. Please, if there's hope for me, give me another chance. He said, he opened his Bible to Psalm 23. He read these words, the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not lack anything. And the conviction came upon his heart as he read this text over and over again. Nobody can take Jesus away from me. He is my shepherd. And because I decide for Him to be my shepherd, He's enough. Jesus is my shepherd, and that is enough. And the conviction of that promise that Jesus was enough for him helped him to get over his depression, just to realize if he is in the embrace of the shepherd Jesus, he was okay. He didn't lack anything. You know, there was a time in Israel where there's no leadership, no shepherd, no king. And people were scattered, confused. And it says everybody did what seemed right in their own eyes. That's what people do, by the way, when there's no spiritual leadership. It's confusing. And they do what seemed right in their own eyes. Do you know that can happen to all of us? We have to be careful. We have to be prayerful. And I see situations today as I travel that people take things into their own hands and make decisions that are not biblical and become shaky on our distinctive message. Well, let's do it this way. Let's do it. And they get confused and they are. Hey, make it simple. We have still a king in Israel whose name is Jesus. And when we have in our lives our shepherd and our king and spiritual leader, we don't want to do things that seem right in our own eyes, we do things that are right in His eyes. You know something? If we really live this and practice this, there'll be no confusion in the church. Because we all agree, we all have this common denominator. What we do is what Jesus wants us to do. We do what's right in His eyes because our eyes can confuse us. There are sheep scattered without a shepherd. As I mentioned in Sabbath school, our witness for Christ, our winsome witness, our seminars about this today, is not overwork. It's not something stressful. It's overflow. There's a difference, isn't there? When you really have Jesus as your shepherd, as your king who guides you, you have His peace. And then you're not anxious and worried and stressed out because it's His work. You come along for the ride. I never ever say that I do things by myself. It's so easy to say, I'll do it by myself. My grandson says at the age of 6, I won't do this by myself. I can do it all by myself. The human tendency is to do things by ourselves. When it comes to spiritual things, such as witnessing, you have a partner. His name is Jesus. So I call Him my prayer partner. What a wonderful partner to have in prayer. Jesus prays for me. He prays with me. Jesus, my witnessing partner. He walks with me and He witnesses through me. It's more fun. It's more empowering to do things with Jesus. Isn't that true? Two are better than one. But the other person is more than one. He is Jesus. He is capable of doing anything. He is capable of doing the impossible in our lives. It's an overflow experience. It's not overwork. Please, when we talk about witnessing this afternoon, we'll be here for 2 hours. After potluck, we'll finish around 4. We're going to talk about being fun, interesting, exciting, joyous, an overflow experience. Not overwork, not drudgery. I don't like drudgery, do you? It's delight. It's enjoyable. And what else does the text say? I'm just going through every text, every word here. And then, verse 37, then He said to His disciples, Jesus says to you and me as His disciples, isn't that wonderful? You're hearing the words of Jesus speaking to you today and to me. The harvest is truly plentiful. That's a true statement. He says truly. The harvest truly, in fact, indeed is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Let's think about this for a moment. You know, many of us reverse that. Sometimes we reverse what Jesus wants to do in our lives. We say what? The harvest is few, is little, but the laborers are okay. No, it's the opposite. The harvest is plentiful, is right, but Jesus doesn't have enough of us as His disciples, as His laborers. Now, does that make sense to you and me? If we look only with our eyes, it doesn't make sense. If we look with the heart, it makes sense. How do we look with our eyes? This is how we look with our eyes. Hey, I look at my neighbors, I look at my colleagues, and they don't seem to be spiritual. I mean, all they talk about is the weather and sports. I'm embarrassed to bring up anything spiritual because they don't seem to be spiritual. When you look with your eyes, but when you look with your heart, you discover this great potential. Like Ellen White said, people around us All these people around us are wistfully looking for something this world cannot give them. What does the word wistfully mean, Mrs. Samaan? Wistfully looking.
Wishing, desiring.
Wishing, desiring. Isn't that nice when you ask your wife a question, put her on the spot, in a church, she gives the right answer. But even if she didn't give exactly the right answer, I would have worked it out that she would feel good about herself. That's exactly the words I was thinking of, what she gave. Wishing. Multitudes around us. And Jesus saw the multitudes with his heart. She said, multitude around us are wistfully looking, wishing, desiring for something this world cannot give them. You know, there are some things the world cannot give you and me, and that's peace of mind. The robe of his righteousness, life eternal. The world cannot give that. Only Jesus can. Now, I want to use a term here, I hope it helps you understand this better. The term is this: demographic studies. Can somebody volunteer and tell me what we mean by demographic studies? If you do, I'll give you 10 bonus points on the final exam we'll have this afternoon. Could you raise your hand? Tell me what that means. Demographic studies. You know, right? What is it? Do you know?
Well, it's the people with specific interests, or
Exactly.
age group, or whatever it is that.
Are you a businessman, sir? Are you a lawyer? Are you a professor?
No.
No. Well, what is it? What does he do?
Tell him what to do.
He asked you.
He's a case manager
He's
for a
what?
dialysis clinic.
A case manager.
For a dialysis clinic.
Dallas Clinic. Very delicate work.
Yes.
Aren't you glad our kidneys work okay? Be thankful to it. Be thankful. You take it for granted. You know, people have kidney problems. They have to have something to cleanse their blood from impurities. And they have to do it frequently. It's not an easy task.
Keep them alive.
To keep them alive. Can you imagine right now sitting in this church, in 2 hours you have to go and go through all this process to keep you alive. What you said is so correct. Demographic studies, let's say you want to sell a product in this town. You survey the people. If they're interested to buy this product. Churches do that. I know a big Adventist church who did that. Pay a lot of money, by the way. To discover if people in the neighborhood in that town are interested in salvation. And I say to them, save your money. Use the money to pay for this demographic studies, to feed the poor. Why? Because Jesus already did the research. And he's a very good researcher, by the way. Sometimes you can cheat with research. Jesus does excellent, perfect research by looking at your heart and mind, by looking at all the hearts in your community, and he comes up with the finding that the harvest is plentiful, that people down deep in their hearts are wistfully looking for something this world cannot give them. But how come I don't see it? But if you start looking at people with your heart and use Christ's approach, and what's Christ's approach, by the way? That's what this book you have is about. It says Christ's method alone. We're told by Inspiration, Ministry of Healing, page 143, the great need of the world today is for Christ to be revealed in our lives. Revealed in our lives. How? Through his method. What's his method? His method gives true success in reaching people. And if you look at page 43, you have all these steps listed, 6 of them. You could look at those, 6 of them. And there are 6 chapters about the 6 steps. Each chapter explains each step thoroughly with experience illustrations to help us practice it. In our spheres of influence, where are our spheres of influence? Wherever we meet people. They could be our children, our grandchildren, they could be our spouses, they could be our neighbors, friends. Our spheres of influence. Look what it says, the first one, middle of page 43. Christ mingled with others as one desiring their good. Seventh-day Adventists must be the most sociable people, mingling with people. Take the initiative. Salt takes the initiative. Have you noticed? Today at potluck, we're going to have a salt shakers here and there. If you saw me take my plate of food and dump it on the salt, it would be so strange. Because you take the salt shaker and you sprinkle on the food. Salt takes the initiative. Salt mingles with the food to bring the flavor out. The second thing, oh, by the way, as one desiring their good, that means for true motives, genuine motives. Secondly, he sympathized with them. Thirdly, he ministered to their needs. And fourth, he won their confidence. And 5, he invited them to follow him. And 6, as they followed him, he trained them to be fishers of men. And look what it says at the end of the statement. It says at the end of that statement, this Christ's method, if you combine with God's love and with prayer, if you combine with what? With God's love and prayer, it can never fail. This method of Jesus we're discussing today is in this book, is sandwiched in success. The introduction says it gives true success. The conclusion of it says it cannot fail. But it adds, combined with God's love and prayer, it cannot fail. And that's exactly what this passage in Matthew 9 ends with. Jesus, how do you resolve this paradox? Plenty in the harvest, few labor. How do you resolve that? According to Jesus, you resolve it by prayer. That's what it says. Verse 38. Therefore pray that the Lord of the harvest will send forth laborers into his harvest. That's the prayer of Jesus. Praying. Praying for what? What is Christ's precise prayer request? We talk about prayer requests, yours and mine, but Christ ever lives to intercede for us. What is his specific prayer request? He says, my specific prayer request is for the Lord to help you become laborers. So if you want to know the desire of Jesus' heart, how many here would like to know the desire of Jesus' heart? Raise your hand. That's his desire, that you and I become laborers. So all I do every morning as I start my day, Lord, I want to answer the desire of Jesus' heart. God always answers this kind of prayer. It's perfect according to his perfect will. I want to be a laborer today. Use me to impact people's lives for the kingdom of God. So let me conclude by telling you how this works in real life. How do you take Christ's method and these 6 steps and begin experiencing it? Well, combine it with God's love, combined with prayer. Lord, I'm a laborer today. You are passing by like you passed by your hometown Nazareth, having in mind to accomplish great works. But you didn't because you didn't believe in you. I choose to believe in you and trust you. Lord, as you pass by my life today, I avail myself of the blessings you have for me. Lead me to someone I can bless today. So I just thought of an experience to show how this works. Would you like to hear the experience? Are you sure or are you too hungry? Who said that? Let's hear it. Thank you. I'm going to. I always conclude. I in my sermons I have stories, and I conclude this. So because I want to make an appeal here. My wife had to be in Florida for some time to take care of her ailing mother, and so I traveled by myself. We always traveled together. I was driving up north. It was about 300 miles from here, maybe more. And, I prayed this prayer, Lord, even while I'm driving to by myself, I'm available in case you want to use me. And my wife made me promise that whenever I felt sleepy, I would stop. Because, you don't want to push yourself. So I promised her every time I felt sleepy, no longer how long the trip took me, I would stop. So I stopped a few times along the way, and now I was dozing off, and I stopped on the edge of the freeway. It's not always safe to stop there and sleep. And I saw an exit right in front of me. So I took the exit, and the first big building I saw was Costco store. How many shop at Costco? It's not too far from here, right? You know what they do? Maybe not in all of them, but at least the one I stepped into. Hot, humid outside. Now it was air conditioned. Not only that, they give you sample foods. Different stations, they offer you different food. And believe it or not, some people have lunch there. I mean, if one round is not enough, they go again. And in America, nobody checks and says, how many times? Let's weigh you. The reason I'm sharing this with you, the first station was they're offering pork. Well, I'm a vegan, so I don't, for health reasons, I am. Normally, the only thing you can do is just move on to the other station. Maybe they have some crackers or something. But you see, I prayed, Lord, on this trip, I'm all by myself. If you want to use me, I'm available. As long as there are people. So then the Holy Spirit held me back from moving on. And I want to talk to this lady serving the pork. But a lot of people are walking by, and she is busy trying to fill these containers. Busy. I said, it's just, why would I bother her? And what do I say to her? That's not the best time to witness to her. But the Holy Spirit impressed me to talk to her. So, this is what I said. I don't know if you believe what I said. Let's imagine you're that lady. I said, ma'am, excuse me, I want to tell you something. She said, I'm busy. Don't you see me? I'm busy. I said, you're right. I don't know what I'm doing this. But the Holy Spirit talked to her. I said, I just want to tell you. I don't know if she was paying attention or not. I just want to tell you one little thing, please, one little thing. You see, I thank you for the pork, but I can't eat it. You know why? No, I don't know why. I said, because I'm a vegetarian. I never witness that way. I mingle with people. I make friends with people. I listen, sympathize. I win their trust. I don't start with, I'm a vegetarian. But the Lord exactly wanted me to say that. The moment she heard the word vegetarian, she said, you are? I said, yes. I want to talk to you. Before, she wanted to talk to me. Now she wants to talk to me. And so she asked one of her friends, could you take over here? I want to talk to this man. I've been looking to talk to somebody who's a vegetarian. I said, why do you want to talk to a vegetarian? He said, years ago, she had some Seventh-day Adventist friends who were vegetarians. And not only that, but she taught what the Bible teaches. That's what they taught. And so I feel now I'm married, I have children, I feel the need to reconnect with them, but I don't know where they are. And I've been praying I'd meet somebody like them. I said, I'm not just a vegetarian, I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. Really? You are? Yes. So you know the Bible? Yes. Would you give me Bible studies? I want to become an Adventist. I said, well, I don't live in the area. And when she learned I'm a Bible teacher, plus I'm a minister, she really was interested. But I could help you. You see how the Holy Spirit works in such providential ways. When you align your mind with God's mind, your heart with Jesus' heart, people and circumstances click perfectly together. And when that happens, it encourages you in your faith and God becomes real to you. Show me a vibrant Christian. I show you somebody who shares her faith. So with these cell phones, it's a very handy tool. I Googled the nearest Adventist pastor in the area, and he happened to be my student. I taught him at the seminary at Andrews University. That makes it easier. Oh, Dr. Samaan, I haven't heard for years. How are you doing? What a pleasant surprise. I said, well, it's a surprise because there's somebody here. This woman and her husband, they want to study the Bible, learn how to be healthy, prepare them to be baptized. He was so eager, waiting. Not all pastors are. Do you believe that, by the way? So I tell some pastors say, well, I don't have time. What are you here for? Kimberly would never tell me that. Never in a million years. If I tell him there is a family that wants you to go because they want to be prepared for baptism, he will see them the next morning. But some pastors today, some shepherds, their gift is not shepherding. There are people like that. I know them because they can't stand the sheep. They say the sheep smell. The sheep have problems. Of course. That's why you're a shepherd. Well, I don't like the sheep. I try to avoid the sheep. I just preach a sermon. It takes me the whole week to get a sermon ready. Well, if you have that attitude, it could take you a month to get a sermon ready. Come on, pastors, you say jack of all trades, you're there to shepherd the flock. If you don't like the sheep, I beg of you, don't be a shepherd. Be something else. This pastor, I'm eager. I've been praying for that. They're connected together and they're studying together. And the Bible study is moving forward and they're going to be baptized. Is this because of me? No. It's because I've decided that Jesus is my prayer partner. He takes my weak prayer and he unites it with his mighty prayer. He's my faith partner. He takes my little faith like a mustard seed, he unites it with his mighty faith. It is because we allow Jesus to work in us and through us. Amen. Pastor Kimberly, being your professor. No, I'm professor now because I still have to determine your final grade for the last course you took for your master's program. So you mind if I just suggest this, if it's okay?
Sure.
And that is because of the lateness of the hour and I'm getting hungry because my wife didn't feed me breakfast this morning. Can I have a little appeal? And then I can have the concluding prayer. Okay? Can I even pray over the food?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, shall we all stand up, please, for the appeal and final prayer?